Starting. Hey, we're live.
Live.
Woo! We're live. Yay.
Yeah, my other browser is going to start streaming us because no, it didn't. Oh, it just, oh, good. Now I'm confused why that didn't start playing automatically. Is Google smart enough to not do that now? They used to be. Anyway. Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm going to play that intro music so we can actually have a show. What do you think, guys?
Sounds like fun.
Good. Here we go.
Sounds good.
News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin podcast.
Hey, folks, welcome to episode 59 of the Iron Sysadmin podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm joined tonight by two of our three co-hosts. I've got Jason with me, and believe it or not, Dustin.
Hello.
Who?
You can unmute and say hello.
Hello.
Who?
Who?
I heard my name, but who's the other guy?
You can hear the crying baby, so you know Dustin's here.
Ah, there you go.
Double play joke there. Ha 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 ha. You're funny.
All right. Welcome back to the show for, I don't know, how long has it been since you've been on the show, Dustin?
Oh boy.
Months. Probably months.
Yeah, a couple months. Probably what? 6 or 8.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Wow.
Happy to be back though.
Well, good. We're happy to have you back. We're going to have a fun show tonight, guys. We don't have a real serious topic for tonight, but we're going to be talking about hacker movies. But it should be fun. It's more than just us critiquing movies. It's going to be a little more insightful than that. So we'll try to get through the news as quickly as we can and get onto that because I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. So,
As
first
do I.
of all, what's that?
I said as do I. I think it'll be great.
As do you. Good. All right. So, first news article of the night. Google had an announcement. What was it, yesterday? And this is from TechCrunch. Apparently, they are releasing, it used to be, I think, Google Cloud Platform. Is that what they called it?
Their cloud services platform.
Cloud Services Platform. They've renamed it to Anthos, which could be a Greek
hang on.
god.
You're burying the lead here.
What?
The first sentence says it all. Google Cloud is no longer in beta.
That's impossible. I thought everything Google was in beta forever.
Well, did they finally remove that from Google Maps? Remember that used to be an agreement when you would open it up. This is a beta version for 5 years or so. Oh.
Well, Gmail was in beta for like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long it was, but it was forever. It was forever. Gmail was beta. Even though it was a fully functional email platform. Yep, beta. So anyway, Anthos is aimed to ease all of your cloud woes by putting a layer on top of Azure, AWS, and probably other cloud players, although those are the only two that are called out in the article. It's also so I don't know fully, like I didn't watch the announcement or anything. I'm just going on what's in this TechCrunch article. And it doesn't go into a whole lot of details. It does mention Kubernetes, that this is based on Kubernetes. So it makes me feel like this is basically a huge multi-cloud container platform. I mean, am I wrong? Did either of you read any more detail than I did on this?
They mentioned specifically VMs being able to be migrated between them, but then they talk about migrating your VM to Google's Kubernetes platform. So I'm not sure.
So running VMs inside of containers is a thing now. So maybe they're leveraging that to migrate legacy workloads into containers in VMs, which is mind-blowing.
Indeed.
To say the least. Mind-blowing. Oh, and they also mentioned that this will run on bare metal. So the idea here is that you can run on-prem AWS, Azure, and I assume Google's compute platform.
Speaking of AWS, whatever happened to the solution that they had for that, running your own AWS instances locally on your hardware? Weren't they talking about releasing an OS to integrate with the cloud platform?
They have some sort of a collaboration with VMware, if I'm remembering correctly, where you can run something like an extension of AWS in your own data center, which
I thought it was more independent than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
Have to dig into it for next time.
There's a couple things that bug me about this Anthos thing. First of all, they may be the first big name to announce this sort of a product, but I don't think they're the first to the game. And this article sort of touts that they are. I'm pretty sure you can do this sort of thing with OpenStack. You can do this sort of thing with other cloud platforms or container platforms like Kubernetes and OpenShift. And there was another one. I can't remember now. I mentioned it before the show. What was it, guys? You don't remember either.
You're talking about Terraform?
Terraform, right. Terraform isn't quite a management platform like this is touting. But it is a way that you're supposed to be able to, spin up infrastructure as code on multi-clouds. So that's, don't get me wrong, this is cool. Like, I like the idea that you're now you're no longer tied to a certain cloud, because that's one of the problems I have with cloud providers is if you do things the Azure way, you're kind of stuck with Azure. If you do things the AWS way, you're kind of stuck with AWS. Now, yeah, I get it. You're sort of locked into whatever vendor you pick for whatever you're doing, but different vendors lock you in different ways, right? Some of them do their best to make sure that whatever you're running is something that is portable, that if you wanted to migrate, you could, away from them to a different product. Some of them don't seem to care at all. And it feels like some of the cloud providers are very much like churning out products without any care for whether you're going to be able to leave them in the future, because they probably don't want you to leave. Where this is something that would ride on top of those cloud providers and simply interoperate with those cloud providers, thus masking the lock-in, right? So that's kind of cool. I like that idea. The thing I don't like about Anthos is the price tag they're talking about in this article, which is 10 grand per month per 100 vCPU block. That sounds like a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. Certain. Holy moly.
Yeah, they do say, the way that they state it here makes me think that this is aimed at larger. So obviously this is aimed at larger organizations, but it feels almost like, they say enterprise prices are up for negotiation. So I'm wondering if they're expecting to be able to sell this through like third parties or something, and where a third party buys it and then sort of doles it out.
Oh, right. It's not an uncommon model. At any rate, it's neat technology, price tag aside. I like that they keep touting that it's open source, because a lot of Google stuff is open source. So that's kind of cool. I'm really curious to see where this goes. So should be pretty neat stuff.
Definitely.
So moving on to our next article. This is actually just from CBS News. We've talked in the past about the Impossible Burger and the Impossible Burger 2 on this show. Well, Burger King must listen to our show, because that's the only logical conclusion, right? Because we're the only ones talking about the Impossible Burger. They're trying out the Impossible Burger in their Whopper, their famous Whopper, in 59 restaurants in the St. Louis metropolitan area, which is kind of cool. This is just like sort of a test case, see if people like it, see how well it sells and whatnot. For them to do this with the Whopper says something, right? They didn't just say like, this is a burger made from the Impossible Burger and we're going to try it out. To put it in the Whopper, the Whopper is synonymous with Burger King, right? For them to possibly sully the name of the Whopper means they must have some faith in this product, right?
Definitely.
So
get the free, Impossible Whopper with your receipt survey, but they're invested enough to brand it as a Whopper. So I would assume.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, this is if I understand correctly, it's the original Impossible Burger. It wasn't in this article, but it's in another one. It's all soy based.
Yeah.
So it's great for not having to harvest cows, and better for the environment, etc. And basically horrible for women in general, and
horrible for
anyone who has anyone who has breast cancer. But I mean, it's a start.
Well, I mean, soy isn't exactly uncommon as a
it's not
in our country, right? Or
no, it's not,
like most countries, really, right?
It's quite simply it's damn near impossible to not get soy in your diet.
Right,
it's in everything these days.
Right. So while soy may not be great for you, a Whopper is not great for you either.
Well, true, but Whoppers don't cause cancer.
See,
are you sure?
You're flame broiled, so there's carbon. Extra carbon is carcinogen.
Yeah, you just don't know. You just don't know. So yeah, maybe at a Burger King near you someday, or if you live near St. Louis, you can try out an Impossible Whopper. Just try to avoid it if you are at risk for breast cancer. Is that the message we need to send?
No, it's an alternative. So
yeah.
To each his own.
All right. Next on the list. Oh, this one, Chrome. Right. So ZDNet reports that Google Chrome engineers want to block some HTTP file downloads. Now, this is just another case of Chrome trying to do what it thinks is right for the internet. I can't say that I disagree with some of the stances that Google or other browsers or even Mozilla have taken to try to protect users from things. I do wonder where the line is, though. So in this case, this article implies, and none of this is written in stone, this article suggests that Chrome is considering, if you're on a web page that has mixed content, right? And I don't mean mixed content like some of it's offensive and some of it's not. I mean mixed content like some of it is HTTP and some of it is HTTPS. Or the page is HTTPS, but there's links that are HTTP, right? So sometimes your browser will throw up a warning for stuff like that, saying that parts of this page are insecure, right? This happens commonly with LinkedIn content like images and links to external pages and whatnot that maybe aren't SSL secure, right? Because there's still probably a good portion of the internet that does not employ encryption on their websites, even though browsers are making that less and less convenient for website operators.
iframe.
Oh, right. So anyway, they're suggesting that if on a mixed mode web page, one of those mixed links, that is, your page is HTTPS, but the URL that you're linking to a file is HTTP, they may start blocking that. Now, I'm not sure if I fully understand the attack vector here, as to why that's necessarily terrible. Like, downloading a file over HTTP versus downloading a file over HTTPS doesn't seem that inherently less secure to me.
It's injection attacks. You can inject the traffic. You can see the traffic coming through and replace data on the fly.
Okay. So we're protecting people against man in the middle, which generally requires quite a bit of persistence in order to execute.
Shut up and trust Google.
Shut up and trust Google. Don't get me wrong. Anything that makes things more secure is a benefit, right?
So I mean, the argument against something like this is that when you're downloading larger files, that there's a cost to doing HTTPS.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you go ahead.
Yeah, especially like larger scale and people don't want to do that.
And we don't mean monetary cost directly, like the cost of the certificate, because obviously you can get search for free now. We mean like CPU cost.
Right,
right?
which turns into monetary cost.
Right,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
turns into monetary cost. I mean, there's no like direct like it costs you money to run HTTPS because that's not necessarily true anymore. It costs you in resources, which indirectly costs you money.
Right. So yes. So you can get certs up the wazoo now. It costs you nothing. It's incredibly simple. I have scripts that do it for me. I don't even bother with it anymore.
Yep.
There is an argument, and I don't know that it's a bad argument, that not everything has to be HTTPS. If you have a website that's just informational, that has no real, like, if somebody's going to attack that, they have, probably have issues of some other sort, because it's not like you're going to steal data that way or whatever. Why waste the time with HTTPS? I mean, HTTP is fine. And when you're dealing with things like zips and exes and whatnot, and you're downloading them, again, depending on where you're getting it from, chances are attackers don't care, because man in the middle in that case is not trivial.
Right.
So, but Chrome wants to secure all the things, and I'm not 100% against securing all the things. I think that, and I'm seeing this with Firefox now as well, which is frustrating and annoying. But going to a website that doesn't, so Firefox is pretty good with non-HTTPS stuff. But if you go to a website that has a bad cert, the ridiculous messages you get now, it basically a non-technical person will look at that and say, "Oh my God, my computer's been hacked."
Yep.
Yeah, they are getting worse. They're getting more in your face about certs that aren't signed, certs that are self-signed, or certs that are expired. And it's not necessarily a bad thing for the average end user, but for technical people like us, it really is just getting more and more annoying. The number of times I log into self-hosted things that have a self-signed cert on them, because it really does not matter if I've put a signed cert on the thing or not, because I'm not doing transactions. I'm not, it's a personal thing that I'm just like, like a management backend or whatever. Chrome and Firefox both make that very difficult now.
Yes. Yeah. And it's annoying. And like I said, people who don't know what those errors are, I've seen people freak out. Like, I've gotten calls on like, "Oh my God, my computer's been infected. What do I do?"
Right. They do look very scary.
Oh, the cert's expired, or, and this drives me up a wall. I cannot stand sites that do this. But if you have like www.domain.com, please get a SAN on your cert so that you can secure both www and just domain.com. They go to the same place.
Well, they don't have to. They could.
95% of the time they go to the same place.
Right, but it's a choice, right? You don't have
understood.
To that way.
And if you don't want a cert for both of them, put a proper redirect in.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
Yep.
Another way around it. But be concise.
So Google is doing this or planning on doing this to Chrome, and announced it on the W3C list.
Yes.
Oh, so it is more in stone.
World Wide Web Consortium list. And it looks like Firefox or Mozilla is going to follow suit as well.
I'm not surprised.
Now, that said, they're looking at exploring the ideas further. They haven't said, yes, we're going to block that. I find that Firefox takes a more conservative approach to this in general with a lot of these things.
Firefox has, in general, taken a more user-based focus for a lot of the things that they do, whether it's to help protect your privacy, or improve your overall experience on the web, which is one of the reasons I prefer Firefox over every other browser on the planet at this point.
And the new browser Fledge, or Microsoft's new Edge, that'll just be dictated by what Google does.
Yeah, because it's based on WebKit, right? No,
they're talking about using Google's source code for their next browser.
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, so just assume whatever Google does, Microsoft will do. Well,
how does Google feel about that?
have
they feel great.
Yeah, they gives them more. What's the term? We have more people using your software. It gives them high
market share.
Yes,
yeah, it's built on Chromium.
Chromium.
Yes, which argue. I feel the same way as that.
And it is launched. It launched yesterday.
Oh, good.
Recently, it just launched recently.
Right along with that Google Cloud Platform thing, Athos or whatever it was.
Yeah, yesterday. It came out yesterday.
Oh, good.
So
good. All right, so yeah, HTTP file links may be harder to click in Chrome. Coming soon to a browser near you.
Yeehaw!
Next, scientists have found the Eye of Sauron in outer space.
Yes,
this is from the Guardian.
It's in the Messier 87 galaxy.
Yeah.
At the time of writing, it was 55 million light years from Earth. That has been updated. It's now 54.5 million light years from Earth.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's a little closer.
But keep in mind, we may not actually be seeing its current state.
Yeah, it's
indeed.
The black hole is sucking everything towards it, so it'll be in our backyards in no time.
Yeah, yes. Right.
It's already impending doom, and we have no idea. Oh wow, look, we found a black hole.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, my face is stretching. Sorry.
So yeah, what we really mean is that scientists have finally gotten a picture of a black hole, which looks a whole lot like the Eye of Sauron. Tolkien had it right. So yeah, I mean, by looking like the Eye of Sauron, I mean it's an orange blur in space with a black dot in the center.
Yep, that's all the light being sucked into the dark center of it.
Yeah.
Yes, the sun doesn't shine there. Huh.
It was
because the sun doesn't shine there.
It was
that's terrible.
Network of 8 radio telescopes that took the picture that they were able to piece together the black hole looked like.
That's pretty cool.
Indeed.
So Dustin, I don't know what you have done, but your audio has gone from like the acceptable rate that it was before the show to like garbage.
Garbage.
Just
garbage below.
Just garbage. Have you put a garbage bag over your head, perhaps?
I'm actually testing a new virtual garbage bag container.
Okay.
Yeah. And the degradation is when Anthos or whatever it is moves it from cloud hosting provider to cloud hosting provider.
Okay, so like so what happened is he was migrated from AWS to Azure and now it's crap.
Oh, I have no control. It's automatic. It's automated.
No.
Pay the bill and all the things stay away.
So I think what's actually happening is he's attempting to lower the background noise due to small children.
Yeah.
And constantly going in and out of being muted. Yeah. And it's taking the software a moment to recalibrate his voice every time he starts talking. So he sounds a little goofy.
So you could compare that to playing Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura when he's testing the soundproofing of the door on the balcony. Oh,
God.
That's not one of the movies on the list tonight.
Sure. No, it isn't. So, I mean, if you could just put some duct tape over your child's mouth, it would solve our audio problems.
No, he might.
Wait, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't. Hang on. I have to mark down the time code so I can edit that back out of the show.
The FCC. FCC.
Okay.
Anyways.
Moving on from the Eye of Sauron to Big Brother.
Yeah, we sort of fell into a black hole there, didn't we?
We did.
Big Brother. Which one's Big Brother?
Big Brother is Apple Music is censoring songs in China, referencing the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre and democracy, because democracy is bad.
All right, so I have a problem with this already because you're saying it like you don't know what Tiananmen Square is.
I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
So at any rate, I'm not that horrible. I may not be a history buff, but I at least know. So anyway, Apple does a lot of dealings in China. They sell products in China. They build stuff in China, like a lot of technology companies do. And in order to continue playing ball in China, the Chinese government has apparently asked them to censor the music in which they are releasing to their citizens in China via iTunes. And mainly the stuff they're censoring is sort of atrocities from the past, pro-democracy protests, or pro-democracy speech, or whatever, and extremely politically sensitive topics. So, what?
The 30th anniversary of Tiananmen Square is coming up in June. I wonder if we can get a nice movement going on the internet that for the month of June, as many websites as possible put up details about Tiananmen Square.
Good idea. I'm game.
Interesting.
I'm only half kidding.
Yeah, well, I mean, the amount of,
they can't block everything, can they?
For the amount of effort that it would take to do that, I would certainly
Twitter.
be game.
This is easy.
However, my particular website probably doesn't get enough traffic to make a difference, so we're gonna have to get some backing here.
Oh, all right. China. Sounds like fun.
What are you, man? What is that?
Dustin, we missed you.
Yeah.
It sounds like a remix of a certain orange-faced human with crappy hair.
Jeez.
It is. Very good, sir. You get the gold star.
Congratulations.
You get a gold star. I get a gold star and you don't. You're jealous.
Congratulations. So at any rate, the point of the article is that Apple is bending to the Chinese government's will because they want to keep doing business in China. And before the show, we had some insights from you, Jason, regarding this. Do you care to try to paraphrase or recite what you were saying earlier about having to do business in China?
So, all right. So Apple does a ton of business in China because, well, that's where a lot of their hardware is manufactured. Apple is not the only company or even the largest company that does that in China. Pretty much everybody that needs hardware built it in China. So when something like this happens, and companies are censoring because China is asking them to, there's a lot of jumping up and down about human rights and we shouldn't be listening to them and blah 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 blah. I don't disagree with that. But I also don't think it's particularly effective because China doesn't care. And they've proven this over and over again. So Twitter doesn't play by the rules that they want. They made their own Twitter. They've made their own Google. I think they've made their own Facebook at this point. They just build their own stuff. They have their own Amazon. So if a company decides not to go to China for whatever, and sort of refuses to play by their rules, China just builds it. And then they have their own. And if you look at those sites that China has built as a result of this, they're actually more lucrative than some of the companies from around the world that they're replacing. So I don't know what the answer is, but I know that merely making a stand like that is virtually ineffective.
Yeah, make a stand, get yourself banned from China, and then China has the resources to just make their own. And
right.
maybe even make it better.
That's not to say that give up because it's just not going to get any better, but I want to say there's got to be a better way to do it. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be a better way. And somebody out there has to come up with it. Maybe Apple censors this, but because they're in the country, they're able to, put more data out there in a more subtle way. Maybe things change because they started with censorship and they slowly, fought against it over time. I mean,
yeah, all of the Apple employees in China will drop brushed aluminum USB keys all over the country.
Aha.
Well, hey, it worked in North Korea. Oh, no, wait.
Good old LimeWire can stand up again. Get that Guntella network started. Make your own.
What did you just call it? The Guntella? Yes,
absolute failure there.
Wasn't it?
I was seeing the letters in my mind. I'm like, we'll go with it.
Wasn't it pronounced Gnutella or Nutella?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
And how you like to pronounce the G in GNU products?
Yeah. Clarification.
Anyway.
Fail.
Moving along to, what is this one? Yahoo tries again to settle lawsuit over massive data breach. So I think they're referring to this data breach that we talked about, what is it, 2 years ago now?
We may have even talked about it multiple times.
Probably. Oh, wait. 2013
Yeah, it's been a while.
breach. 2013. Yahoo was hit by multiple data breaches from 2013 to 2016. The 2013 breach affected every single customer account that existed at the time, which totaled 3 billion. Yahoo previously said names, email addresses, and password, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You've heard all this before. Well, they're apparently trying to settle this for, where was it? 117.5 million. So do the math, guys. 3 billion. 117.5 million divided by 3 billion. Jason,
how many zeros is that again?
That comes out to 4 cents per email address.
Right. Now, I mean, it's 4 cents per email. Now,
but it's not like every breached user is getting 4 cents.
No, it's a class action lawsuit, so it's going to be, a fraction of that people, but still. Yeah. This is Yahoo trying to get out of
Here's your $7 or whatever, right? As most class action lawsuits go.
What makes it pretty comical is Verizon just like totally got boned on the deal.
Oh yeah. This came out right after they purchased it, right?
Yep. And it was the information and the details were not present before Verizon acquired Yahoo. They were still investigating and didn't have a conclusive answer to what the damages really were. And
they did it anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, good old Yahoo. If you had a Yahoo account, please, if you use that password anywhere, go change it. If you haven't already, go change it. And maybe you'll be entitled to 4 cents in the class action lawsuit.
Oh man, what a mess.
All right, and one more. We have a lot of news for tonight, but we've gone through it in like record time at this point, I think. What do we have?
I know. How horrible of us.
We're at 40 minutes, and about 10 of that was, or 15 of that was before we started recording. So before we went live. So, Wired. Jason, you linked this. Did any of us really get a good chance to read this? Because it really deserves some dissection, and I don't know that we're going to give it nearly enough mental space. Wired reports that Kaspersky has found this interesting piece of malware running on just one network. Now, I read this before the show. Where is it?
It's an Asian. The name of the malware is Taj Mahal, and it's running on a Central Asian country's network.
Embassy. Yeah.
Embassy network, yes.
Kaspersky says it first detected the Taj Mahal spyware framework last fall on only a single victim's network, the embassy of a Central Asian country whose nationality and location Kaspersky declines to name.
And no surprise, it's Windows-based, and it's using PowerShell.
Surprise. Malware on Windows? Never.
Yeah, it's interesting. It says the embassy of a Central Asian country, but it doesn't say where the embassy is. Like, I get you're not saying what country it is. Exactly. But they're also not saying what country that embassy is in.
Right. They're saying they're not saying the country the embassy represents. They're not saying where the embassy is. I mean, that's the whole point. They're trying to be vague because they don't want to release information yet. But yeah. So Jason, did you get a chance to read over this, or were we too busy chatting before the show?
A little of both.
How much in depth did you get?
This thing is apparently huge. There's 80 different modules in it that do various different things.
Make sure you touch on some of those modules. They're pretty interesting. Some really unusual stuff.
You see, Dustin, you may be unfamiliar with how this show works, but you are what's called a co-host, which means you can touch on the modules.
Well, it's his article, though. I don't want to take all of his sunshine.
Dustin, touch the modules.
Oh, yes. Hey, remember, you never touch another man's modules. It's just like the dongles, all right? Everybody has dongles for their computers these days. You don't touch
there we go.
Dongles. Goodbye.
So they said this is a rather large undertaking to develop something this big, and they're relatively convinced this is a nation state or state sponsored intel operation.
Well, interesting. Interesting. This sounds like something else. Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago now.
You talking about Stuxnet?
It does all sorts of crap. So it automatically scans USB drives and reports the contents to a command and control server so that they can decide if they want to exfiltrate any of it. It automatically monitors. So if they decide they want some of those files, it looks for that USB drive again, and when it sees it, then it downloads the file and sends it to them. It does all sorts of stuff with like CDs and printer queues.
Burning CDs. How cool is that?
It is quite in depth.
This is back orifice all over again.
Yep. Yeah.
And can it detect the CD tray?
But it sounds like it's stable. And it has apparently been on these systems since 2014.
Yeah. So I did want to mention that we made a point to call out that it was on. They've only found it on a single network, but they do mention in the article. But given the software's sophistication, Schulman says, I guess Schulman is the employee of Kaspersky who discovered this, says that Taj Mahal has likely been deployed elsewhere. It seems highly unlikely that such a huge investment would be undertaken for only one victim. So no one's suggesting that this was a targeted attack or anything. This is just the first place they found it. Anyway, continue. You were mid-sentence, I think. Or about to say something.
I was just saying it's been there for it's been there for over 5 years. And that's sort of the big mystery is this thing has been there for 5 years, nobody's noticed it. How has it flown under the radar? Yeah. And why is it only on one network? I mean, this, the one thing that they mention is this is a rather large piece of malware, very, very
sophisticated,
complex and sophisticated to only target one network. It's got to be out there somewhere else.
Yeah. They say this suggests that there's either further victims not yet identified or additional versions of this malware in the wild, or possibly both. So, I mean, if it's been hanging out here for 5 years and no one noticed it, either the folks administering this network weren't looking, just possible.
Who needs patching?
Well, no, it's not just patching.
I know. I'm just making a joke.
This could be something that somehow eluded that as well. Some kind of zero-day
configuration. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's really easy to say, oh, how could you not see it for 5 years? But working for an IT organization that is understaffed, as I do, I can say that it's not unlikely.
It's probable. Absolutely.
They're just not looking, right? They don't know. They didn't know it was there because they weren't looking for it. And now they're looking. Or it could be that it's really sophisticated and it really hides itself well. And if it does really hide itself well, it could be lots of places and no one knows where to find it yet. And now that people are starting to detect it, they can say, this is how you find this thing. Go look for it. And maybe we'll have a bunch pop up. Who knows, right? So, new nasty malware called Taj Mahal. I wonder how they named this stuff.
They said that this one was named after, I think it was after one of the, named for a file the spyware uses to move stolen data off a victim's machine.
File called Taj Mahal.
I guess.
Okay.
Put it in the Taj Mahal. I don't know.
Put it in the Taj Mahal. We'll exfiltrate it later.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Hey, why not? All right. Well, that's the end of the news, right? Did we cover it all? I think we covered it all.
Yes, it's all covered.
Anybody hungry for a fake burger?
Smothered and covered.
Burgers.
All right. Off we go. So that was fun. I don't know what we have for announcements. Oh, we got a few more subscribers on YouTube. That's cool.
Woohoo!
It's almost like people like our show.
That's cool.
I know, isn't it?
Hopefully we don't lose the subscribers now that I'm back on an episode. Maybe it was, trending upwards.
Oh crap, we just lost one.
Ah. Oh wait, I closed the tab. Hold on, no, that's a viewer.
Yeah, so that's about it. I don't know what else we got. Oh, I know what I can talk about. So it looks like, and I haven't even told you guys this yet. First of all, I wanted to mention that I'm going to be at Red Hat Summit. Jason, you knew that because I chatted with you about it. But
nice.
Austin, I don't know if I've even seen you since I found out like the dates for Summit, let alone that I was going.
Probably not.
Okay. So yeah. Through a group that I'm in called the Red Hat Accelerators, I managed to get a ticket, and Red Hat sort of likes this group, so we're getting kind of a certain level of special access, which is pretty cool. I don't want to like brag or anything. I just kind of fell into this. It's pretty cool. The Red Hat Accelerators are also going to be part of a panel at Summit, and there were five accelerators that are going to be on it. One of them had to drop out, and it looks like they're going to be rotating me in. So not only am I going to be at Summit, I'm going to be speaking on a panel. It'll be pretty cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You know what the panel is yet?
The name of the panel is something like "Winning with RHEL: Experiences from Our Most Enthusiastic Customers" or something like that.
Oh, you would probably be able to add a lot to that. You have a lot of background with RHEL.
Exactly. I mean, I've been running RHEL for like, I don't know, 20 years.
You old man.
Yeah, right. I mean, I started tinkering with Red Hat Linux before RHEL existed in the late 90s in like my parents' basement. So yeah, I've been doing this a long time. So that's cool stuff. If you're going to Red Hat Summit, let me know, and maybe we can catch up, have a drink or something. So
reach out to Nate.
Yeah, reach out
and
to Nate.
a date.
I think that's about it. You have any B-sides related stuff, or is it still too early for that?
Still a little too early. I mean, B-sides will be, I think, either sometime in October or November. I don't know if we have dates yet. So I'll be there again, and then
I hope to be too.
Next year's Whopper Summit. So that'll be in end of March, I think, is what they're targeting. But that's not in stone yet. So been doing that as well. And then
cool.
Next con that I know I'm going to is DerbyCon.
Yeah.
See if anything else pops up.
Yeah, DerbyCon call for papers, I think, is open. I don't know when it opened, but I just happened to be looking today, and it looked like it's open. I was thinking about submitting my So You Want to Start a Podcast talk to DerbyCon. I don't know if it'll get accepted, but maybe I'll luck out. We've also got the Hack Your Derby that we'll submit as soon as Call for Workshops is open, which did not seem to be open. That's what I was looking for when I went to their site. Otherwise, that's it. We've already mentioned that it's going to be the last DerbyCon, which I'm still kind of sad about. But, you know.
Yeah.
Everything comes to an end. Oh, they've named it. It's called Finish Line. DerbyCon 9.0, Finish Line.
Interesting.
Not the country. Not like the Finland line.
Ha, ha.
It's a finish. Finish line. Anyway, geography challenge. Right.
Indeed.
If there's no other announcements, I'll get into reviews. We've got a couple. Well, we've really got one. And it came from our Slack channel. So, folks, if you're not in our Slack workspace, you can go join it. IronSysAdmin.com/Slack will get you there. First of all, we've got a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, which is pretty cool. I just happened to notice that today. But we've only got 9 reviews. So, good or bad. We've got 9 people that thought we were worth 5 stars.
You have 8. One of them's me, isn't it still?
Yeah, one of them is you. One of them's you.
You have to deduct that.
It's still a review, okay? The rest of them, I think, are actually legitimate listeners, and you were.
And it does count because exactly. I was a listener before I joined, so.
Yeah. Yep. And as much as we like to keep the 5-star rating because that makes us look really good, we'd also like feedback. So if you have feedback for us and you want to leave it in the form of an iTunes review, I do check them periodically to see what's going on iTunes, and so that I can update how we're doing and update you guys on the show while I'm doing it. Even if you're not going to give us 5 stars, while we would love a 5-star review, if you think we're not doing a great job, tell us about it and give us a rating appropriate to what you think we're doing. And we'd love to hear it and give us feedback and let us know how we can improve. So that's the only way we get better. And I mentioned Slack. We got a new member in Slack this week or last week. His name's Michael N. And he just basically says, hey, guys, I just wanted to stop by and say, hey, as a new sysadmin, I've been enjoying the podcast and learning a lot. I just finished the latest episode on my commute this morning and especially like the overview of the differences between Ansible and Puppet. Keep up the good work. So thank you, Michael, for the feedback. Pretty helpful. And I got a couple other just basically messages from folks, like not necessarily feedback, but just people I know that said that they appreciated that topic. And it was a listener suggested topic. So I think that worked out pretty well. So if anybody has any other suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, then feel free. Let us know through Slack or Twitter, or I don't know, send us a carrier pigeon. I really want to see how that works. I've never actually witnessed a carrier pigeon. So if somebody wants to send me a carrier pigeon, get in touch with me and I'll give you whatever you need, GPS coordinates or whatever. I don't know how carrier pigeons track, but send one to me. I want to see it happen.
Don't give them any coconuts, okay?
No coconuts? African? Those are swallows.
They're African swallows. Yeah, swallows.
Not carrier pigeons. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Feedback is great. And that's it for reviews. You guys got anything fun going on that we can chat about before we get into the main topic? Dustin, you haven't been on the show in forever. There must be something that has occurred in your life in the past year since you've been on the show.
well, outside of my son, which we've mentioned before, I have been working on something that's kind of been under the wrap for a while. There's a group I'm starting up in my area called Tech 570. And it's meant to be like a unbiased education, networking, and a couple other ideas that'll come out of it to kind of bring resources into the area that we don't normally have access to. I've got a lot of sounding positive feedback from different companies and vendors that want to help contribute to it, whether it be helping teach something that is more about a topic, not just a brand, sponsoring events, helping pay for stuff. So it seems like there's a lot of traction. I finally have the time to do a little bit with it, so we'll see if it happens.
Cool. Well, when you have dates or whatever nailed down, if I can make it up, I'll come up for a meetup or two if that's what the format you're going for.
Yep, I would love to have you, and if you ever want to present something, by all means.
And we'll also be happy to announce it on the show when you have something formalized. Cool. So if you've got like a meetup link or just a website
Absolutely.
or whatever, Twitter account,
I have it all.
I've
had it for a year. Yeah, I've had it for a year.
You've been planning this for a while. Okay, so is it?
It's been put on the back burner.
Is it solidified enough that you have a date, or you don't have that yet?
It's going to be most likely the first week of May. I'm thinking that Wednesday. I don't have it nailed down yet. I'm working with the venue, but I'm hoping May 8th.
Cool. Well, if you have something you can share now, throw it in the show notes, and I'll include it with the show. If not, then when you have it, share it with me or with Jason or whatever, and we'll get it on the show.
Sounds good. Rock on.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like to support that kind of thing, just because DEF CON 610 has been really beneficial for me, just from a networking and friends perspective. And I think it's really valuable.
Absolutely.
I've got a
I wish I could make it to them, because it's been the last time I went to was like a year ago.
You've got like a 2-hour drive or something, don't you, to get here?
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive. That's the only reason why I haven't made it.
I don't blame you. And I mean, no offense, but if you've got a monthly meetup, I probably won't make every one of them either. So
that's okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted something like that wasn't so much like specific to one thing, because you and Jason and I have been all over for different conferences and different areas where you have your education seminars and just exposure networking, and it's powerful, but not everybody gets that opportunity, and that's kind of like what I want to try to do with it here. But like I said, we'll see.
Yeah. So
I hope it doesn't fail.
My coworker who's running the Lehigh Valley AWS group, they're also meeting tonight. And that's the reason I never get to make it to his meetup. One, because I've only got so much time in a given month, and I try to make it to DEF CON 610 since I'm part of the leadership. So it's hard to make several meetups in a month just because of, family obligations and all that stuff. But so yeah, if I can't make it to his frequently, I probably won't make yours frequently either, but I would love to make it up for one or two. So
cool. Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right, Jason, anything cool?
Not really. I'm starting to put together a blog series on infrastructure and architecture. Just sort of kind of a so you wanted to play an app, how do you go about doing so type thing, and we'll
that's
see
cool.
where that goes.
Well,
So
I could see you really getting like detailed with that too. Not even just talking about like the app itself, but going full stack.
Yeah, the app is largely irrelevant in what I'm trying to do, but so the first post,
about how to get the infrastructure together, right?
Yeah, yeah, had to decide on what to do and pros and cons, etc. So the first post is up there. It's just sort of an introductory thing, and I'll be working on the next posts over the future.
Cool.
So we'll see how that goes.
Cool, Jay.
If you've got a link to that, throw it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Trying to make some stubs here in the show notes for those things. I don't, now we're this is the problem with collaborative documents. We're trampling each other. Okay. I don't know what I've got going on. I've been busy. Like kids are in soccer and softball, and like that's all kicking up. I don't know. Other than the announcement about Summit, I don't think I've got anything cool going on the past 2 weeks.
Well, you made mention that my shelves are missing, so
yes,
that's also going on.
The wall has reappeared.
The wall has returned.
Yeah, so all the shelves are in the garage, ready to get finished. So they'll be back up in a couple weeks.
We've been railing on you for the past several weeks about that, and now you're finally doing it. Good job.
yeah, it got warm, so I got all the wood into the garage, and
then it got cold again.
Today. Yeah.
Gotta love
it. Excuse me. I'm trying a new beer tonight, which is like this collaboration between Carvel, the people who make ice cream cakes, and Captain Lawrence Brewing Company. Anybody who's watching on YouTube can see the can right now. I don't know. It doesn't taste anything like a Carvel ice cream cake, so I don't really know what the goal was here. It's not bad, though. It's just a very bitey stout.
Real heavy?
It's supposed to be like a chocolate stout. I don't really taste any chocolate in it.
Well, once you've had Rogue's double chocolate stout, you really can't.
Or no.
Yeah, you're spoiled.
Rogue's is good. Young's double chocolate stout is better. What was the one I had? Sam Smith's organic chocolate stout is freaking amazing.
Yeah. I will say that's pretty good. Yeah.
That is good stuff.
Sam Smith's, is that what you said?
Yep.
Sam Smith's.
Do they also make the oatmeal stout too? Is that the same guys?
They do. Okay. They make an oatmeal stout as well. And I think a milk stout, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
That's also good.
But unfortunately, my local beer distributor does not get Sam Smith's in, at least not regularly. So I haven't been able to buy. I would love to just buy a case of this stuff, even though it would probably be ridiculously expensive because just getting a glass of it at our local pub was expensive. But it was good. Good. I mean, I would pay $50 for a case of this, maybe more. It was good. It was good. The Young's double chocolate is like a $60 case too. So, and I would happily pay that as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they last, so.
They do. Yeah, right. Sure. I don't drink them like folks drink Bud Light. I drink one an evening because they taste good, not because I'm trying to drown my sorrows about my failed life.
Well, I mean, you need to drink an entire case to feel anything with Bud Light, so.
Exactly.
Very well hydrated by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get more of a buzz on water.
Yeah, right.
Water and deep breaths.
Right. So I guess we can move along to the main topic. Anybody else got anything cool? No? All right then.
Nope. Push the button.
Server 2019.
Push it. Cool. Push the button. No, you're fired.
Spoke about Server 2019. Should I go back to playing the 90s hip hop that we were playing before the show?
I don't know. Could we get sued for that?
We probably would. What is it? 15 seconds is fair use?
I don't know. YouTube would probably put a DMCA request on it immediately, and the show would be
demonetized.
And
we're not monetized anyway, Dustin.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
We don't have nearly enough subscribers for that. So, folks, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. So we can get paid pennies per view.
Right. So we can get monetized so that we could then play some music so we can get DMCA'd and get demonetized.
Yes, and then have a video about being demonetized. And then that, but it's a vicious cycle.
And then that goes viral. And then, yep. I honestly, I mean, I could go on and on about how unfair YouTube is as a platform just from one of my other endeavors, but I won't because it's unrelated. So tonight's topic. All right. So 2 weeks ago, maybe I listened to an episode of Darknet Diaries, and I should have wrote down the episode. I think it was the most recent one. One of you that
about the ATMs.
Yes, I think it was the one about. Yes, it was the one about ATMs.
Yep, that's the most recent.
At the beginning of the episode, he's talking about the movie Hackers, and a few other movies that talked about hacking ATMs, right? And how like that was this popular trope in movies. And he didn't just reference the movies as like a link to this ATM hacking. He went on a little bit about just computer movies and hacker movies. And at first, I thought that's what the episode was going to be about, that he was going to be like reminiscing about, technology movies and sort of the impact that they had on the InfoSec industry or the computer or IT industry. And then he didn't, he went on to talk about ATM hacking and whatnot, which was still cool. A really good episode. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't disappointed, but it just didn't
specifically about the Carbanak attack what is it? Whatever, the Trojan. So that's the ATM malware. And the episode name is Carbanak.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Don't get me wrong. Very good. I highly recommend that podcast. It's fun. It's great. I mean, he has interviewed. Well, whatever. I don't want to go too deep into it. Maybe we'll have to have some sort of a show. Maybe we'll interview him or something. Have him on the show sometime. I'm sure he'd be up for that.
That would be great.
I've heard him on other shows. Anyway, it gave me the idea because I've had this opinion for a long time that movies from the late 90s, early 2000s, computer movies, sort of helped form an industry. And I don't mean directly, like in some way that some Hollywood formed movie was so accurate that it, inspired people to go be hackers or whatever. But really, if you go to an information security conference like DerbyCon, I don't mean like RSA, where it's mostly like corporate folks walking around in suits. I mean like an actual penetration testers, hackers conference, and ask anybody if they've seen the movie Hackers. They'll quote you half the movie, right? And I honestly, I see themes from that movie that are in real life in the InfoSec industry. And personally, that movie, along with my own interest at the time, sort of helped form what I thought would be a fun career, right? There's a scene in Hackers. There's many memorable scenes, I think, in that movie. But there's this one scene where it's like Dade handed over the malware or the worm, right, to Plague, right? Remember, he hands over the floppy disk and Plague comes up on the freaking skateboard and grabs it. And then like he goes immediately to meet up with his friends, and they're hanging out at one of their apartments, hacking away at a copy of this worm. And Dade sits down and he just like goes in the zone and he starts analyzing code and he's trying to figure out what this thing do. That's malware analysis. That is a lucrative career today. Right? Like that's exactly what that is. There's lots of other stuff, like the references to phone phreaking, the references to calling Venezuela by playing some tones into a payphone. That was a thing that actually worked at one time. Those things don't work anymore because people have figured out that simply playing tones into the phone isn't a great way to secure your phone network.
Come on.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I guess
2600, right?
My point is that the movie Hackers sort of embodied something. It embodied a spirit to not necessarily break the rules, but question assumptions, question how things are built, try to get around the barricades in front of you. And that's kind of how I have lived my own life. Not to the point where I'm borderline a criminal, but to the point where it's like, when there's a problem in front of me, I don't just assume that I can't fix it. I try. And sometimes I make it worse, and sometimes I fix it. And when I fix it, it's like, wow, cool sense of accomplishment. And that's essentially what like the InfoSec and even the IT industry have turned into, where it's just a series a series of problems that you have to solve. And I think that's what I like about this industry. So I'm going on a bit. The whole point of this is I thought we would talk about a couple other movies like Hackers. Hackers is just sort of the example that maybe had an impact, or maybe just had an impact on us in general, or maybe we're just trash and we like to laugh at them, right? So I asked each of the co-hosts to come up with a couple movies that they thought were cool, or that they thought were funny, or that they just liked. And I thought we would talk a little bit about each one. So Hackers, I already went on a bit about. I really hoped, I do want to preface this with just one last thing. I'd really hoped to sit down and watch some of these movies before we did this episode. But we just didn't get the chance. So Charles was supposed to be on the show tonight, and he had an idea for a topic, and something came up. He couldn't be on the show. So I decided to shuffle this around. We're going to do his topic next time we record. And this is the topic that we're doing now because it's the only other idea I had in the hopper. The hopper being my brain. So,
in the mainframe.
Excuse me. This stupid cough has not gone away yet. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. We'll just get on into it, I suppose. So, Jason, you've linked. So we've also linked IMDb articles for pages for each of these movies. You can see them in the show notes. If you haven't seen any of these and you want to go watch them because you've heard them on Iron Sysadmin, go ahead on over to IMDb and you can look them up. So the first one, of course, was Hackers that we already talked about. Jason has linked in a link to a Twitter feed here. You want to talk a little bit about that Twitter account that you've linked?
Yeah, so there's a Twitter feed, Crash and Burn. You're really gonna have to go to the show notes. I think it's Crash 2_ N 2_ Burn. And it's basically the entire script for Hackers, and they sort of replay it every once in a while. So that's out there. And oh look, the host got distracted. There's a Batwoman. I believe his daughter has joined us. Yeah, it is. It is. We can talk about this all night.
Did the Joker run away?
I don't know. Uh-huh. So anyway, so the Twitter handle is there. And it basically goes through the script kind of on a loop. It's a lot of fun, and it pops up in my Twitter feed every once in a while, sort of reminding me of the movie, I guess. So that's fun. All right, so Hackers, first movie. So Dustin, why don't you kick off one of yours?
Sure, can do. So I immediately thought of Office Space. I don't know if everybody remembers Office Space. Came out in 1999 about a company named Initech, and they were rewriting bank software for the Y2K rollover for ATMs. Yeah, specifically ATMs. And it goes on talking about like common office life, cubicle life at that time. Plenty of funny, wacky people there. Milton, one of them with his stapler, etc. But the core, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. The core of that from what we're talking about tonight is a virus that they write to try to take a stab back at the company because of all the frustrations they have, having multiple bosses, TPS cover reports. Maybe you guys look at that. Different things like that. They dealt with frustrations, so they came up with a virus that would deduct fractions off of pennies every time a transaction with their software was conducted, and would move it to a foreign bank account, etc.
They did it in Superman 3, didn't they?
This is a fairly well-known trope of taking the rounding errors and throwing them in a bank account, and then eventually you
A
have
foreign
millions.
bank account. Yeah. Pretty funny. I mean, it's not all about the virus. It does become a big part of the plot, but yeah, pretty funny. One of my favorites growing up, just because I always found the dry humor to be really funny, and as I got older, I had a bigger appreciation for it as well.
Yeah, when this movie was big, I was working in a cubicle farm in tech support. And on weekends, when there was no supervisors around, we used to actually watch this movie at our desks, which was just
That's awesome.
the epitome of what this movie it represented.
PC load letter.
And who doesn't want to take the copier out back and shoot it?
Exactly, and especially with that song that's played. Yeah.
So
pretty good.
So one of the movies I chose was Sneakers. So this goes way back to, I don't know what year this came out.
That was the 80s, I think, right?
Yeah. So oh no, it was actually 92.
Oh, okay.
I won't tell you my age.
Sneakers was basically it's a team of hackers that do they seem to do like red team exercises, which is this is years before this has sort of become a big thing. But they're specialists. They go around testing security systems, and they stumble upon a box that decrypts all the things. Now, the premise there is a little,
as unbelievable as that is, right?
Yeah. So I think it sort of fits in. I don't remember when was the Clipper chip debacle. 93. Okay. So this was sort of right before the whole Clipper chip thing came out, which was sort of the chip that was with the back doors so that they could encrypt and decrypt on the fly, and only the government would have the keys. And that's sort of what the premise of this is they found a way to decrypt all of the secret messages that a government was putting out, because this knew the back doors to get through the encryption. And of course there's a big story behind it and everything else. But it's fairly realistic, especially given the time. And it's a really, really good story, and sort of outlines what a red team kind of does day to day.
Yeah, I loved how in that movie, so there's this scene, and I wish I knew even the characters' names. Again, like I said, it would have been great if we could have watched these movies before we did the show. But I remember, like, there was the main guy, right? He goes into whatever
Bishop,
that's his name.
Bishop. Yep.
He would go in. He was like the point man, and then he'd have a team of people talking to him via a radio, I suppose.
Whistler, Mother, and
right. Whenever he encountered something he couldn't figure out, he would ask them to look it up, right? And they had picture the 1992 version of what might be the internet today, right? Instead of having Google, they had like manuals all over the back of the van they were in. And he comes across a door that has thumbprint. It was not a thumbprint reader. It was a code, right?
Yep.
It was a code, right? And he's like, how do I defeat this thing, right? And then they spend 5 minutes like trying to figure out, how do I defeat the code? What's the trick? What's the pin? What's the master key? Whatever. And they cut out the audio of the radio that he's on, and he says, are you serious? He had received whatever instruction from his van, and then it clips back to him kicking the door down. That's the most memorable scene I have from that movie. But it's so realistic, right? Because it's like, there's not a way around it. So improvise. And he just kicks it as hard as he can, and the door opens.
Right. This is the XKCD. How do you crack a password?
Exactly.
You tie the guy to a chair and you hit him repeatedly with a pipe until he gives you the password.
Crowbar until he gives you the password. Yeah, exactly.
So, all right.
Anyway, I didn't want to derail you, but yeah, excellent movie. I loved that movie. I wish I'd seen it more often. I don't remember if I have it or where I saw it, but I did I did watch it at some point. A few times. Good movie.
Yep.
Swordfish is the next, I should say the first one on my list. So Swordfish, if you haven't seen it, it's a really fun cyber thriller. It's got Hugh Jackman and Halle Berry and John Travolta, right? Yeah, he's
John Travolta.
He's like the big baddie. And it's basically like a bunch of hackers around a bank heist. And the way the film is filmed, the way it sort of plays in reverse, not quite reverse, but the film starts at the end, and then the movie's all about the story that got them there. It's really cool. There's a lot of scenes in that are really, really feel authentic. There's a lot of like law enforcement action that feels very true to life, true to like very authentic-ish. Oh, what's the cop's name? The actor that plays the cop. He's another big name. I can't remember his name.
Allow me to check the IMDb's.
It's only linked right in the show notes. So anyway, but yeah,
I don't know which one's the cop. So they've got Don Cheadle, Sam Shepard, Vinnie Jones, a bunch of other people I've never heard of. I'm bad at this.
Well, I can't. Hold on. Now I gotta look.
Do you?
I'll probably identify it as soon as I look, because I know exactly.
Yeah, I don't remember which character was the. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie.
That explains why I didn't know his name. It's Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle, yeah.
He's been in a few things. He's well, just go look up the IMDb.
It's like some sort of famous actor or something.
He was in Iron Man 2. I don't know why I didn't know his name. My brain kept going to Chris Rock.
He's got a suit and everything.
Yeah, but that's not him. Anyway, right. So there's a scene in this movie where Hugh Jackman's character is modifying the code of a worm that he wrote like in college or whatever, right? That he'd stored away somewhere. He has a criminal record, right? So he's not even supposed to be touching computers, right? The usual, like, you're not allowed to touch a computer for the next 100 years thing, right? Because you've got a criminal record. Same thing that played out in Hackers, if you remember correctly. Dade wasn't allowed to touch a computer for 10 years or something. Anyway, so he's like drug out of retirement, and they want him to write this virus to attack the bank that they're going to be robbing for some altruistic means. Well, he's in this room and he's surrounded by monitors, and there's this like really funky music playing, and he's drinking and he's like hammering away at the keyboard. And this whole scene, the way he's acting, the way he's like muttering to himself, the way he's just lost in thought 1 second and hammering on the keyboard the next, the way he's talking to himself, the way he's like chanting and cheering whenever he gets stuff to work right, it all seemed so realistic to me, because this is exactly how I've seen myself act when I'm trying to build a complicated system, or when I'm trying to write a complicated script or whatever, where it's like you finally get that moment of success and you stand up and you cheer like you're a freaking football player that just, won the game or whatever. So I thought that scene alone made me like this movie a lot. And the rest of it it's not too far-fetched. It's still a Hollywood tech movie, which are generally, unrealistic. But anyway, there you go. Swordfish. I thought it was a fun movie. And I also think that it was at least somewhat realistic. So he's next. Dustin, did you want to go next? Right? We went Jason, then me, now Dustin.
Sure. We could talk about go ahead, Jason, because I'm going to say it wrong. Ex Machina.
There you go.
All right. AKA Ex Machina. Even Silas agrees. Basically, it's about this programmer that gets flown to this CEO's fortress in the woods, and it's about these androids that have a very advanced AI that learn, and also are able to adapt to different environments. And the hacking piece of this movie is not only does the main character socially engineer, well, I shouldn't say socially engineer, he gets the guy drunk and takes his access pass to get past physical barriers and actually modify, some of the HVAC systems and access control systems in the place. Outside of that, the AI also leverages shorting out the monitoring systems to cause a power failure. So supposedly the video and
don't ruin the movie.
Oh, oops. Spoiler alert. Retroactive spoiler alert.
There's quite the turn at the end, and you'll have to watch the movie to see it. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but there is quite a twist at the very end of that movie. The very end.
Very cool movie.
It was, what I liked about that movie was not just the coding and the computer aspect, but the way it's a very like psychological bend, right?
It is. It's there's a huge psychological bend. Like the tech piece of it's kind of like, some of it's like, oh, I could definitely see that happening, and some of it's like Hollywood fantasy. Yeah, we're just gonna try to blow your mind. Definitely some of that there.
And sorry to tell you. In that movie, if I remember.
Yes.
Because they're robots, right? They're essentially like, of course all the robots are female.
Of course, yes.
Because what else would a billionaire make, right? But a bunch of fembots to walk around.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I mean, it definitely, like, it's a good movie, but if you're offended by nipples, you probably shouldn't watch it.
Yes. Well put. Well put.
Jason, you're up.
All right, so what do I have here? So this one's gonna go quick because I haven't seen this one. This is one that was mentioned on Dark Knight Diaries, specifically in that Carbonac episode. There's a movie called Prime Risk that's all about hacking ATMs. And if I remember correctly, I think he said that was the first instance he could find of a movie that actually had ATM hacking in it. And the interesting bit is this is a movie from 1985.
Yep.
That goes apparently pretty in depth with ATM hacking. So it's one that I've just added to more recently added to my list of things I need to watch. But on the same era, War Games.
I guess you have the longest list, so go ahead and give us two.
Yeah, so by one, but okay. So War Games is I think War Games might be the oldest one on the list we have, 83. And it's one of the first hacker movies I ever saw, about 1 billion times.
Yeah, really good movie.
But this is basically back in the era of bulletin board systems and dial-up modems, and the main character has written a piece of code that just walks through a set of numbers and dials them. If you're interested in code that does that, H.D. Moore did a nice keynote address at DerbyCon a couple of years ago that explained a war dialer, and all that code is out there and you can play with it. Anyway, so he dials a bunch of numbers and stumbles upon a system that appears to be, I think he believes it's sort of a game, and he ends up.
He thinks it's a game publisher.
Yeah, and he ends up sort of accidentally triggering World War III. And hilarity ensues. So the government comes to visit him, and all sorts of nonsense. But it's definitely one of the first hacker movies I ever saw. I mean, I was doing the BBS thing back then. Absolutely fascinated by computers at the time. So this was just more fuel, and really got me going. So. I don't know what else you could say about War Games. Except there's apparently a sequel that I have not seen.
Really?
Really? Apparently it wasn't that good. No one ever talks about it.
It's called The Dark Hour or something like that.
Oh.
Hang on. I'm sorry. The Dead Code.
The Dead Code.
Yeah,
I
don't
entirely
know anything about it. And there's a new War Games in development. I'm afraid.
played the War Games, or not the War Games game, but DEF CON, the Steam game on Steam.
So,
Yes.
El Cantaro in the YouTube chat says that nobody saw it and it sucks.
Hi, Kentaro.
Okay. So yeah, War Games was definitely a good movie. I agree with you 100%. The excuse me, the whole point that I'm trying to bring across with this particular talk is that movies in some cases inspire people to think in a different way. And that's what Hackers did for me. I saw Hackers before I ever saw War Games. I didn't see War Games when it was new. I looked it up later because it just wasn't, I don't know, whatever. Maybe I was, I mean, what, you said 83 it came out?
Yeah.
I'd have been like 3 years old then, so that's probably why I didn't see it when it came out.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
didn't see it when it came out. I wasn't even.
You weren't born yet. You were freaking millennial. So anyway, yeah, but it's definitely in the same vein as everything else in this list. So yeah, really good movie. I really liked. Again, there was some authenticity to how that worked, and in a lot of ways, it brought to light that these things can happen. Like war dialing and finding a machine to connect to was a very real thing in that era. Because nobody had computers. People didn't have a computer in their living room like they do now, or in their pocket like they do now, let alone one connected to the phone line, randomly dialing phone numbers. I mean, who's going to guess my phone number? I'll just leave it open, whatever. No one's going to, it's 7 digits, 7 whole digits. No one's going to guess that.
The reconnaissance, right? I mean, that's just, it's so dark, unless you really know about something, like it's
right.
Excited.
And yes, Dustin, I don't know if you remember this, but telephone numbers used to be 7 digits if you were in the same area code.
Yes, I lived in an area that was an uproar when they added an exchange. I was running a phone system at the time, and I got chastised by many people saying, well, why are you requiring this? My cell phone provider, a.k.a. Verizon, AT&T, doesn't require it, and you are. I said, well, I'm following the guidelines that were set, and we are active with our 10-digit dialing.
I remember when that showed up, 10-digit dialing. Anyway, we're getting off topic. The next movie on my list, it's my turn, right? Next movie on my list, and people might laugh at me for this one. The Net, which is a Sandra Bullock movie. A Sandra Bullock movie with technology really sounds like a contradiction. But again, this in my group of friends, so the Net and Hackers were sort of the same era. I didn't look at their release dates, but I think the Net came out either a couple years after Hackers or a couple years before. Let me look here. Where's the release date on this thing? Hello, release date. Where does IMDb keep the release date? It should be like right here. Oh, there, 1995. That was 95. I think Hackers was 95, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the same year.
Yeah, so they came out the same year. So in my group of friends, everyone was like, oh, Hackers is so unrealistic because of the graphics, right? Because the Gibson was like this big CG nightmare, and it was so wonky. But the Net featured like actual computers with actual like of the day operating systems and web pages and whatever, right? So that was it added a certain air of realism. And the Net was basically like Sandra Bullock, if I remember, she was a software developer, was she? I haven't seen this movie in years. But she stumbles across this like backdoor in an application, which basically was a web page in the movie, and she stumbles across this like whole secret society called like the Pythagoreans or something.
Nope, the Praetorians. Yes, she was a computer programmer.
Right. And it's just like this general cyber thriller. I personally thought that, considering everything I know about Sandra Bullock as an actress, she seemed like this would be a movie that's very out of her element. I thought she did well as an actress. even though she doesn't seem like a very technical person at all. Of course, I mean that's the whole point of an actor, right? An actor's supposed to pretend they're someone they're not. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much. I just thought it was a fun movie. It's not like the sort of movie that I've rewatched 100 times like I have Hackers. But like I said, in my group of friends, everyone's like, oh, this is so much of a better movie because it's more realistic. Well, when you look back 20 years, 25 years at these two movies, personally, I feel like Hackers has held up better because the computer system was not locked in with the era, right? The computers they were using were very Hollywood and they were very futuristic, right? And because they don't mimic a current operating system, they still hold up, right? Like, yeah, some of the stuff is dated, like 28.8 kbps, dude. Like, could you imagine being on the internet at 28K now?
Screaming, baby, screaming.
Yeah. So
let me get 480 by whatever size that used to be pixel picture.
Right. So comparing the Net and Hackers, which is because they were such similar movies, not similar era and similar theme, right? Hackers, I think, did a better job of portraying what it is to be in that community. It portrayed community. It portrayed like quirky people that didn't fit in well. It portrayed just a real curiosity, where the Net was more like a corporate espionage style, hacker movie, right? Still good, but what movie we forgot? Do you guys remember?
One?
You guys remember Antitrust?
Yep, I was just looking that one up.
That was a good one. I don't know. I've only seen that once or twice. I remember
basically.
I remember it because it was so similar to my Microsoft of that era, and I hated.
Yes, well, that was what the movie was about. It was about Microsoft. Yeah. So well, very fictionalized, but yes, it was supposed to basically attack Microsoft, if you will.
Okay. So anyway, Dustin, you have another one? Tron, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a hacker movie per se.
Sure it is.
Not compared to some of the other mentioned.
Hacker and computer movies is the theme. It's just that most computer movies are hacker movies.
True.
I don't know. I disagree. I mean, the whole premise of the movie is that he's a computer programmer that basically hacked his way into the hardware.
Yeah.
I mean, he was digitized. He's inside the computer. And I don't know how much hacker you can get than that.
I guess you can categorize that way. I don't know. I just look at it from like the way we define hacker today, reverse engineer. But I guess, I mean, that does fit that definition. I mean, you're not you're not off on that at all. I guess.
No, so this does bring up an interesting point, and I don't know if we have time to really cover it tonight. The term hacker, in my mind, is a very, very broad thing. It's not just someone who uses a computer to commit a crime, which is what the media might have you believe.
Yep. Bad people are hackers. They're not reverse engineers. They're not intelligent.
Hacker is not a dirty word.
Right.
Correct.
What do you call a doctor that kills people?
A hack.
Still a doctor.
I
mean, a lawyer that's bad is still a lawyer. I mean, yeah, you can have your license stripped away, but I mean, when you do something bad, you're a criminal.
Regardless.
There's a word for it. It's sort of a bucket. We don't need to define what type of criminal they are. They're all criminals.
Right.
And they're not very smooth.
So anyway, you want to talk more about Tron, or did you just throw it in there because you wanted to look like you knew what you're talking about?
Yeah,
cultured.
We could talk about Tron. Tron came out before I was born. I'll give you that fun fact. I saw Tron when I was very young. Forgot all about it until Tron Legacy came out, and then said, "Wow, I really have to watch the old Tron because I don't remember any of it."
Yeah, I need to rewatch it too. I've only seen it a couple times, and it's a very, very faint memory.
Yeah, it's what always still sticks with me, even for how great the Tron Legacy's digital effects were and all the money that Disney put into it. MCP always stuck in my head the first time I saw Tron, the Master Control Program, and I think even South Park did like a skit on one of their episodes where they had a similar MCP appear, that had like the same shape and format. It just was funny. But yeah, it's definitely a movie that if you haven't seen it, check it out. If you've seen Tron Legacy first and then watch Tron, you may be bummed, but don't compare, the modern effects of today compared to what they did back then. It was ahead of its time. I mean, the we look at it now and it's very like, oh, this is like basic. But if you think about that era when
what's running through a cardboard maze? What is that?
yeah, the grid, right?
Yeah, right.
It was pretty neat. It was pretty neat. And I do say, and some people disagree, I think that Tron Legacy was a good follow up to the original Tron. I know, there's definitely some gaps, if you will, but once you get past that first hump of the movie, I think it's
Tron Legacy was a great ride. It was a really good movie.
I thought Tron Legacy was a fun movie. I really did. I'm not like some weird hardcore Tron fan that was like, some kind of Tron purist. I'm not nearly as upset about Tron Legacy as I am about Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Or the original, or the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah. Well, really, if you just drop Jar Jar out of those, they're not so bad. Wonder if I could just cut all the Jar Jar scenes out. Someone's done this, I guarantee it.
I'm sure there's already a YouTube version, Star Wars under a minute, no Jar Jar.
Nice.
All right, so
is it me again?
Last movie. No, I think it's me.
No, we went in a weird order. I think it's me now.
We did go in a weird order.
Damn it,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go. Do it.
Walked in to ask me to turn the Wi-Fi back on. All right, so this is a little, I don't know. I saw this movie a million times because I loved it because it had robots in it when I was a kid. Dustin, have you ever seen this movie? You can see you're not looking at the movie. Short Circuit.
Sorry, I'm fighting my microphone control. Yes, Johnny 5 is alive.
You have seen Short Circuit. Okay, so I don't feel quite as like left field on this movie. It's not quite a hacker movie, but it's very much a technology movie. And it's all about these robots that were built for battle. Right? Like they were basically drones. Like if you were to take drones today. Except they're very humanoid minus they have no legs. They have little tank treads for legs. And they have like laser cannons on their shoulder, right? And there's 5 of them created, and they're on this like charging station on a Nova was the name of the government agency, right? Which is very much like
Nova. Nova was a company.
Yeah, it was meant to look like NASA.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was meant to feel like this weird government agency. And one of them gets electrocuted or electrified by lightning. Right. And it supposedly fried some circuitry and it enabled some kind of an AI. Right. And the whole premise of the movie is that this one robot is alive. Right.
Because it got short-circuited?
Because it got short-circuited. Now, as unbelievable as that might be, a lightning strike isn't going to suddenly create life in a robot. It is a really fun and funny movie. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't really like a techno thriller like the other stuff on this list. But it really formed my interest in just like robots and electronics when I was little. Sorry, say that again. You cut out.
I said absolutely. I felt the same way. Watching it as I was growing up too was just something that definitely gave me a different perspective on it. I don't know. It was very different first time, and even just the quirks of the whole show. Whether you're young enjoying it in your mid-teens or even as an adult, there's humor that kind of fits all age ranges, and it's still relevant in some ways. I mean, obviously, some of the comparisons from then to what we deal with now are very different because the movie's been out since what 80 was the 80s, late 80s.
Yeah, it was the 80s somewhere. Let me look at the IMDb here. 86.
Yepper.
What's this guy's name?
Newton Crosby. That was what he was always referred to by the gentleman that is not actually Indian, but he played an Indian actor, and he got a lot of Fisher Stevens. Right, Fisher Stevens is not Indian. He played an Indian actor, and what was his name? Ben. That's right. He played the role as Ben. Steve Gutenberg.
Is Steve Gutenberg the guy? I never knew his
name. Also, Fisher Stevens was also the guy that was in Hackers.
Aha!
That's the Plague.
That's the Plague?
Yes.
Holy shit, that's the Plague. That is the Plague!
Yes.
You would have never known it. Jason was the one that pointed it out to me. I think last year, or the year before. He's like, "Oh, you know that guy that plays that plays that." Yeah. He said he's not Indian. I said, "No."
Yep, that's the Plague.
That is hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, but Steve Gutenberg is the one I was thinking. Oh, Ali Sheedy. She was also in War Games.
Yes.
Wasn't she?
Yes. I think so.
It's funny how this whole like
let's click on the name and find out. Yes, she was in War Games. She was Jennifer.
Yeah, she was Jennifer. That's cool.
Yep.
Fun fact.
So Short Circuit was the beginning of No,
the beginning of
games. This is after War Games, sorry.
Yeah.
It's the thread that links all these people together.
Yeah, yep.
It'd be even funnier if, like, the guy who played Dade Murphy was a child actor in this movie or something. That'd be hilarious.
That would be good.
That'd be hilarious.
Well, now I got to find out what else he was in. You're making this difficult.
But yeah, Steve Gutenberg is the guy I was thinking. He was in like every 1980s comedy ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Police Academy.
Yep, he's a funny guy.
1 through 5. There was 5 police academies, right?
Oh, there's like a million police academies.
There might even be more than that.
Something, wasn't there?
I don't know.
Police Academy 7, we're all in wheelchairs. We're all old.
Police Academy Retirement Edition.
Dade started. Dade. What the hell is this guy's name? Johnny Lee Miller started out. His first acting credit is Doctor Who. So
awesome. It's awesome. Was Ali Sheedy ever on Doctor Who?
I have no idea.
Or the Plague? Was the Plague ever on Doctor Who?
No idea.
That's
if it wasn't for IMDb, I wouldn't even know these people's names.
I'm
really bad at this.
The source is all Doctor Who. So anyway, Jason, I think you have one more, and then we're done.
Yep, one more, and we're done. So this one is
Short Circuit. If you haven't seen it, it's a funny movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There is a sequel.
Yeah, Short Circuit 2 was. It did not fall to the usual sequel failure, but it wasn't as good as the first one either.
No, it was not. It was not.
Wasn't there a third 2, or is it only Short Circuit 2?
Only 2 that I know of.
There was a third.
One could argue that Chappie is the spiritual successor to Short Circuit. So the other movie that I have on here is Firewall. So this is a Harrison Ford one.
Okay.
I've
seen this.
So the premise is that he works for a bank, and there's hackers that or thieves or whatever you want to call them that want to steal stuff from the bank. And the only reason, so the movie itself it's not bad. It's not really a heavy tech movie. The reason that I have this on here is this sort of fits into the XKCD of hacking. They wanted to get through the firewall, so they kidnapped his family and threatened to kill them unless he let them through the firewall.
So is this just like what was that movie with Darkman in it?
I do not know.
The guy who played these things, I can't remember his name.
Are you talking about Die Hard?
Who played Darkman?
I don't know.
Liam Neeson. He was in that movie where they stole his family. Wasn't it called like Ransom or something?
Oh yeah. There was a couple, wasn't there? Taken. That's right.
Yeah. So this is like Taken, but with a technology aspect.
Sorry, I'm also getting interrupted.
Yeah. You were interrupted by a kid in her pajamas wearing rollerblades asking me to turn the Wi-Fi back on.
Oh, we thought that was Batwoman.
Anyway, my kid's a hacker. She can use rollerblades.
Oh,
there's a rhyme that has to do with roller skates now. Anyways.
Anyway.
Firewall.
Yep. So it was more of a I threw this in more on the more realistic scenario aspect of things. It's well within reason for criminals to hold people hostage in an attempt to get through, and that's basically what this movie is about.
I don't know if I'd call it reason, but it's
and what I think makes it what I think it makes it even more fun is that Harrison Ford is supposed to be a security specialist in this movie.
Yeah.
And if you watch the movie, you get the impression he's not. He's very much more of a manager type. So this felt to me like the the dude who went and got a CISSP and knows all the security stuff and he's in charge of security type. So it was sort of hit a bunch of different areas. Not a horrible movie. I don't think it did very well. It's worth a shot if you're interested.
It sounds contrived.
It is a bit.
I think what I'm looking for.
It's Harrison Ford. It's decent. It's not. The acting is pretty good. So.
Yeah, while kidnapping someone's family to get them to do something is not unheard of, it definitely sounds like a thing that only happens in the movies, especially when it's related to a firewall.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, that's Iron Sysadmin's technology movie review night. I hope you found this as insightful as I hoped it was going to be. I wish we had a little more time to prepare. Like I said, I wish I could have just sat down and watched most of these movies to refresh myself on the plots and the premises and whatever. And I think I may actually have to watch one or two of these that I haven't seen yet, like Firewall, because it sounds so believable.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to sit down and watch a bunch of these again because now it's bringing back memories.
Yeah. I have to watch a couple because I've never seen them, such as footwear. I mean, sneakers. I was kidding.
Yeah, shut up, youngin.
I haven't seen sneakers.
Have
you seen The Net?
No.
I mean, it's worth a watch. It's worth like one watch.
One watch.
If you really like it, then watch it again. But I think I've only seen it once or twice, and I only vaguely remember the plot. But I remember it being is not a horrible movie. But yeah, my whole point here is that these movies helped inspire a generation to think outside of the box. And I don't know that movies today still do that. I mean, I think about movies like Black Hat, which was just like this horrible. I haven't even seen Black Hat. Have either of you seen it?
No.
I don't think I've actually seen the movie.
I'm mainly going on reports I've gotten from lots of people that have seen it. They said it wasn't a great action movie and it wasn't a great technology movie. And those are the two things it tried to hit. I mean, Chris Hemsworth as a hacker seems weird.
Let's see. A get out of jail free. So this convicted hacker gets a get out of jail free card to join a team of American and Chinese technical experts tasked with tracking down a Balkan cyber terrorist operating from somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Oh, so it's Swordfish minus the bank.
Sounds reasonable.
I mean, think about it, right? So Swordfish had an action star as their main character, Hugh Jackman. I mean, come on, the guy's Wolverine.
Yep.
So, why not take Thor and do the same thing?
Again, sounds reasonable.
Yeah, right. Totally. Anyway, I think that about wraps it up for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember, you guys can watch us live roughly at 7 p.m. on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification if you hit the little bell there when we go live, because usually we're a little bit late because, well, let's face it, we've all got busy lives, and while we try to get together early enough to get this done, I think by the time the three of us were all on this call, it was about 5 minutes to 7. So it is what it is, guys. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube and you're not already there, youtube.com/Iron Sysadmin podcast. Like I mentioned before, you can join our Slack workspace. IronSysadmin.com/Slack will get you directly to the invite link that I have open. As long as no one starts abusing that, it'll remain open. If people start abusing it, we'll have to start going to an invite-only model, I suppose. And I really don't want to do that because that's even more overhead for a podcast that doesn't really pay us. We do this for fun. Facebook and Twitter, you can find us, Iron Sysadmin. We got a Facebook page, a Twitter account. Twitter account was most recently seen conversing with me because, I have multiple personalities.
Wow, you're aware. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. And don't forget, if you want to support us monetarily, you can do so via Patreon, patreon.com/IronSysadmin. I'll have to get a link for it and add it to the show notes. I have set up a very small Teespring shop where you can get Iron Sysadmin branded stuff like shirts and coffee mugs and whatever. I'll have to start adding that to the show notes so you guys can go check them out. Teespring doesn't give us a huge profit, but if you guys want to sport our gear and advertise for the podcast for us, that'd be awesome. So I'll get that in the link or in the show notes. And that, I think, is that for tonight. Any final words from either of you two?
Bird. Bird is the word.
Bird is
indeed, sir. Indeed.
Bird. Bird is. All right, folks, go check out Hacker Movies on our Say So, and check back in 2 weeks for our next episode where we might be talking about disasters with Charles. So have a good one, folks, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Night all.
Good night.
All right, that was fun. We should do that stuff more often. More Hacker Movies. Indeed. Someone make more Hacker Movies so we can keep talking about them.
Yes.
All right, those of you who joined us in YouTube, thanks for watching live. Looks like it's just El Cantaro left at the moment. Do I know you, El Cantaro, or is it just Jason? It seems like Jason knows you.
Yep, he's one of the Whopper Summit guys.
Oh, cool. All right. So, yeah, thanks for watching live, and we will catch you next time. Good night.